everybody. I hope everyone's doing well. It's 12 o'clock on July the 16th, Tuesday. It's time for some trademark trailblazers or trailblazing trademarks, however we want to say it. But I want to say thank you so much for whoever's on here and joining me. I have a few questions to answer, and I have three totally awesome trademarks that I want to talk about today and a couple of trademark fails. So I think I'm going to check my Facebook page really quick just to make sure that people are able to see me. So be patient with me for 1 second here. Oh, actually, I should probably make sure that I'm going into the right page. So please forgive me because I am still trying to get used to using Ecamm and pushing that into Facebook as well as YouTube. So I'm such a novice with all of this. So patience is always appreciated. Okay, so this is cool because I actually see myself over on the Facebook page, and it's really bizarre because I feel like there's a little bit of a delay. And I'm seeing myself 3 times on my on my computer. There's like a small video, a large video, and then my Facebook page. So it's a little weird, but it does look like I have somebody joining me. Okay, so this is maybe it's my sister. Hey, someone loves me. Anyway, I'm going to talk about trailblazing trademarks, and if you or someone you know has what I would think is a trailblazing trademark, an awesome trademark, feel free to let me know. Just shoot me an email, and I'd love to talk about them and feature them. So the last time I did this, I talked about Somersault, which is a really cool trademark and brand. They're doing some really cool things. And then I also talked about the other trademark was Strawsome. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about a few outdoor related trademarks that I have come across that I really love. And the first one is Arc'teryx. And Arc'teryx is primarily an outdoor brand, and they've evolved a little bit into not just hardcore outdoor people, but they offer a lot of different goods, and their name and their logo, Arc'teryx, refers to the Archaeopteryx, and I'm probably completely slaughtering that, but it's one of the earliest known birds, and the logo was actually designed by Principal Jeremy Gard, and it's based on the Berlin specimen, which is the fossil of the bird, and it's one of the most complete skeletons found to date of that particular fossil, which is, I think, really cool. And they originally started out with the name Rock Solid. I think that's okay. I don't love that as a trademark. I think it's a little weak. And then they ultimately changed the name to the Arc'teryx, which this was in 1991, and the word Arc'teryx reflects their vision of creating disruptive, quote-unquote, evolutionary innovation within the outdoor products industry. And I think that that's really cool that they kind of took that evolutionary language to apply to their brand. So Arc'teryx, I'd love to give a big shout out to them. Just a little bit more information about this brand. The Archaeopteryx, which is the fossil, right, was this creature that allegedly sort of struggled to escape the hostile horizontal world. And it actually became like this lean and magnificent climber. And according to their website, it says, driven by success in the gears of evolution, it developed the feather. And down climbing became a thing of the past, which is not something climbers really love to do, having to down climb. And they state that, name the Archaeopteryx lithographica, the link between dinosaurs and their avian successors. Arc'teryx name represents the idea of accelerating evolution, helping to drive human progression in the outdoors. We believe there's always a better way. And I think that that's just some beautiful branding and a beautiful trademark created by this company, as well as their logo. Their, like I said, their brand, I feel like, has kind of expanded beyond just that hardcore climbing community. And I believe they have a store in Soho now, so which I find really interesting. I know it's there. Well, I saw it a couple of years ago. I don't know if it's still there. I'm sure the real estate price there is out of control. Now, the other brand name that I wanted to talk about that I love is a company called Never Summer. And they primarily make snowboards and apparel for snowboarders. And I'm not a snowboarder, I'm a skier, but I still think that this is such a fun trademark. And when I am out skiing in the winter, sometimes I think I want winter to last forever. I don't want any summer, never summer, right? So I think that this is actually a really cool trademark. But allegedly, they started out with a different name, Swift Snowboard. Swift, don't love it. It's a little weak. It's a little descriptive, but they ultimately did this rebrand and started calling it Never Summer Snowboards, and they're based out of Fort Collins, Colorado, and allegedly renamed it after the Never Summer Mountains in Colorado. So I think that there's kind of a double meaning there, and I think that that's really special. I love what they've done with this trademark. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about another brand name that I think is a lot of fun. And again, it's a snow or outdoor activity related brand. It's called Shred, SHRED. And a lot of times you will, hey Kimmy, a lot of times you will hear you'll hear skiers, especially the younger ones. I'm not really in that category, unfortunately, but I say it kind of jokingly, like, let's shred the gnar, or that POW won't shred itself. And shred means to ski or snowboard with exceptional speed, ability, or enthusiasm, especially in difficult terrain conditions. So my partner and I sometimes will be like, let's shred, or this POW won't shred itself, and then we'll end up crashing. So I mean, it's all kind of in good fun. But there is a brand of helmets and other ski gear out there called Shred brand, and I like their naming. So one thing to think about when you are going through the trademark creation process is, for your particular goods and services, you might want to think about, is there any lingo or jargon in the industry that you can maybe use? Be careful. I think you have to be careful. Like, if it's overused, you might be hurting yourself. But I think at the end of the day, I think Shred has done a really good job with their trademark. So the three trailblazing trademarks today are Shred, Arc'teryx, and Never Summer. So if I ever get into snowboarding, I'd really love to take a lesson. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I am going to have to look into the Never Summer gear and apparel. I think that they're just doing some really cool stuff. So I want to talk about a couple of trademark fails. And both of these fails are for similar reasons. And the reason I want to talk about these fails is I like people, like, if they make a mistake, I think it's really important that we learn from those mistakes. It's so important to learn from mistakes and to learn from other people's mistakes. So one of the trademarks that is a big mistake is the mark question of the day. And the applicant tried to get this trademark registered with the USPTO, and they do trivia email services. And the USPTO said that the question of the day, it was not registerable because it fails to function as a trademark. And I see that a lot in the private label industry, where people select marks that fail to function. They don't act actually as source indicators for trademarks. And this was an interesting argument that the applicant made. They submitted a image from the website which had the words "question of the day" in front of a pink banner. And the question of the day was, which is the smallest country in the world? So hold tight and I'll give you that answer. But that was their specimen. And they said that because that display emphasizes the term "question of the day" in a pink banner, consumers obviously know that the trivia email services are from the same single source. And I think it's kind of funny because the examining attorney kind of flipped that on its head and said, well, yeah. She said, this is attorney Lauren Burke with the USPTO. She maintained that the phrase "question of the day" is used to convey information to consumers that a question is being presented, but it does not convey any information about the entity providing the question, which goes to that source indicating functionality of a trademark that must exist for registration. And not surprisingly, the board, the Trademark Trial and Appeals Board, I sometimes call it the TTAB or the TTAB, they agreed with the examining attorney, as they do most of the time. And they observed, in particular, the positioning of the proposed mark in the specimen and stated that the phrase's position immediately above the daily trivia question to which it alludes and the multiple choice answers appearing immediately under the trivia question reinforces the perception that its function is informational and not source indicating. So I found that really interesting, and because I'm a trademark nerd. But just keep in mind that be very careful with commonly used phrases if you want to use that as a trademark or source indicator. And I mentioned that a minute ago. I mentioned shred, and I said, okay, well, look to see if there's anything that's in the lingo or the jargon of the particular industry that you're in, and it may function as a trademark. In this situation, it did not, because it's a commonly used phrase by a lot of third parties merely for the purpose of imparting information, and it makes it less likely that the consuming public will perceive it as identifying a single commercial source, and less likely that it's going to be recognized by consumers as a trademark. So that's really important language there. So please keep that in mind. So do you want to know the answer to what is the smallest country in the world? It's Vatican City. So FYI, I learned something from the question of the day. Another trademark application that got refused for the same reason is the term scoop for frozen confections and ice cream promoted and distributed by a mascot named Scoop. And I think that this is really interesting. The USPTO found that the term is merely descriptive, fails to function, lacks acquired distinctiveness, and is therefore not a source indicator for this particular service, and they would not permit registration of this trademark. So this is another situation where you have a term that fails to function as a trademark, and the USPTO, or the Trademark Trial and Appeals Board, once again sided with the examining attorney at the USPTO. I think that these are two really good lessons to be learned. I feel like I get a lot of people that come seeking registration for marks that at the end of the day just fail to function as trademarks. So keep that in mind. Now, I have a couple of questions that I want to answer, and I'm looking to see, Kimmy, I see that you're in here. Hey, Kimmy. This is cool because I'm just now kind of seeing how like the comments pop up on my eCam. So that's cool. Kimmy, I'm glad that you're here. Let me know if you have any questions. So one of the questions that I got before today was, I'm not a U.S. citizen, but I've already filed my trademark application without a U.S. attorney. Am I going to have to get a U.S. attorney? So I talked about this last week, that the USPTO will be requiring foreign-based applicants to hire registered U.S. attorneys to prosecute their trademark applications. And this is really a response to this major uptick in a lot of fraudulent trademark applications and cancellation proceedings that were being filed with the USPTO and sort of mucking up the entire USPTO registry. And so now these entities have to get U.S. attorneys. I think that this has been a long time coming, to be honest. It's crazy to me that it hasn't been required before, but it does mirror similar requirements in other countries, such as Japan and China and the entire European Union member countries. So if you're wanting to file in any of those foreign jurisdictions, you will need to hire an attorney, and that's how it's been. So the answer to this question is yes. Even if the rule actually starts to take effect on August the 3rd, but it will apply retroactively to pending applications filed with the USPTO prior to August the 3rd. And non-U.S. applicants with pending applications who have not retained U.S. counsel will be informed via an office action with the USPTO that an appointment of a U.S. attorney will be required. And at that point, these foreign applicants will have 6 months to respond to that office action and retain U.S. counsel. I sort of love this because that means that if these third parties don't retain U.S. counsel within that 6 months, then their applications will go abandoned. And so they have a couple of options: retain a U.S. attorney, or their application will go abandoned. And I really do hope that this solves that problem of having a lot of just junk on the USPTO registry on the USPTO record, because at the end of the day, people are making a lot of business decisions based on what's being filed and what's registered with the USPTO. And it's really difficult for brand owners to make smart business decisions if at the end of the day there's a lot of junk on the register. So I think that's great. And keep that in mind if you are if you are a foreign-based applicant, that you will be issued an office action if you've handled this on your own thus far, and the USPTO will permit you 6 months to retain U.S. counsel. Another question that I got is, Susie, I am a little bit confused about what the difference is between a brand and a trademark. And this is a great question, and I am guilty of using them interchangeably, but they're not the same. Now, I will use brand name and trademark interchangeably, and they are the same. But the term brand and trademark are not the same. So again, brand name and trademark are the same, but the term brand and trademark are not the same. And here's the difference. So just a trademark is that single element or symbol of your brand, and it acts as that source indicator and serves to identify your products and distinguish them from others. This kind of harkens back to what I mentioned a minute ago about how the trademark has to be a source indicator, or otherwise it will fail to function as a trademark. And a trademark can be a logo or like a design, like the Nike swoosh can be the word Nike. For example, if you are at the gym and you see a gym bag with a Nike swoosh symbol on it, you don't even have to see the word Nike, and you know that that's a Nike brand. That's how that logo is kind of a brain tattoo at this point. When you see that iconic swoosh, you know immediately the source of that gym bag. You know it's not an Adidas bag, for example. if you're driving down the interstate and you're like, oh my gosh, I really need a coffee, I'm about to go crazy, and you look over and you see a mermaid logo, you're like, whoa, there's a Starbucks ahead, I really need to stop there. Or maybe you're like, I hate Starbucks, I'm gonna avoid that place. So you know if you need to get that caffeine fix, you know where to go if you're into Starbucks. If you don't like it, you know what to avoid. That's because it doesn't matter where you go for your Starbucks, if it's LA or Atlanta or Zurich or Mumbai or Moscow, your experience in that Starbucks location is going to be very similar. It's not going to be identical. I mean, there's obviously cultural considerations, but particularly in the US, if you're in LA or San Francisco, that experience is going to be very similar at every Starbucks. So what am I getting to here? That experience that you have at that Starbucks, that is that brand impression. That is the branding. You go into a Starbucks, they all look very similar. Their cups are similar. The product placement on the shelves are similar. The menu is similar. That's the branding. The copyright on their bags of coffee, is all very similar. That's the branding. The trademark is the word Starbucks. The trademark is the logo, the mermaid symbol. Those are the trademarks. So what is the brand? So the brand is what elicits that emotional feeling or that reaction in the consumer. The brand is an umbrella, and it encompasses the brand name or the trademark, the story and the packaging and the marketing, the look and the feel, the visual imagery, the identity, the image, the personality, the character, culture, essence. That's the brand. So when you see a trademark that's associated with a particular brand that you're already familiar with, you're going to have some types of feelings conjured up within you. So as an example, I want you to take a minute and think about how certain brands make you feel. Virgin Atlantic, if you've ever flown on a Virgin flight, this is a wildly successful airline. It's unique and fun and funky. ValueJet, how does that make you feel? If you're as old as I am, you might have a little bit of a gut reaction to that trademark. That is a now defunct airline, and it had some systemic safety issues years ago. They had a major airline crash in the 90s, and they ultimately changed their name. And the airline crash was in the Everglades down in Florida. It was a very horrific accident, and they ultimately changed their name. But whenever I hear the word ValueJet, I kind of get this, like, I don't know, it just kind of hurts my stomach thinking about it. Mercedes-Benz, how does that make you feel when you hear the word Mercedes-Benz? Enron. If you've been around long enough and you hear the word Enron, it might make you feel like, oh, big evil corporation. How does the word Dollar General make you feel? I mean, I'm in Kentucky. We have Dollar Generals around here. I go into them, and they're very budget friendly. They're small. They're easily accessible, kind of cheapy, crappy stuff. So compare that to Whole Foods. I think Whole Paycheck. I love Whole Foods. I'm going to admit it. I love going into a Whole Foods. It makes me have a certain feeling. I love shopping there. I love spending money there. I love eating from there. So these are just examples of how those trademarks kind of conjure up a feeling within me. And maybe after having gone through some of those examples, hopefully, or possibly you feel certain things as well. So it's not the same for everyone, but at the end of the day, companies do want that brand experience to be positive, but the underlying message could be different. Budget friendly, Dollar General. Exclusive, Mercedes-Benz. Hoity-toity, fancy, Ritz-Carlton, right? So that branding itself is intangible. It's the feeling that people get after they've engaged with certain products or marketing efforts. And you always want that feeling to be positive. It can be different, right? But at the end of the day, you want the feelings to be positive. You want people to come back. You want people to come back and experience the brand, whether or not they're looking for a budget-friendly brand, right? Most of us, if we've gone into a Dollar General store, it's it's probably been a positive experience. We need to go in there and get something really quick, and they've been around for a while, a decent amount of time. I want to say, I feel like they really kind of exploded around 2008, maybe around the time of the recession. So they're around, and they're going to probably be around for a lot longer. There is a set of promises and expectations when you go into a Dollar General. There's a set of promises and expectations if you go into a Whole Foods. I'm just giving you some different examples of how those different promises and expectations can have an impact on us. Brands promise consistency and quality, and think about how if you go into a Disney store, how does that make you feel? Makes me feel happy. How do you feel when you go into a McDonald's or an IKEA, or again, a Starbucks, an Apple store? What about a Walmart? That's one I kind of forget about. And of course, Dollar General. So wherever you go across the world, when you go into any of these places, the experience is going to be pretty similar. I've been in a Walmart in Munich, Germany, and it was very similar to a Walmart in Kentucky. So granted, that experience of a Walmart is very different than the experience of going into a Whole Foods. So back to trademark specifically, remember that trademark, again, I use it interchangeably with brand name, is a single element of your overall branding. And it acts as that source indicator and serves to distinguish one entity's products for another. If it doesn't do those functions, it's not a trademark. So more examples. I love examples. A BMW. If you're driving down the road and you look over and you look at the wheels or the rims of a car and you see the blue and white flag, kind of the circle and the flag, you think that's a BMW. That car came from BMW, and you probably have some type of feeling or reaction to that vehicle. Another source indicator is the red wax that's poured over a Maker's Mark bottle. That's actually a registered trademark, which is really cool, and just really drives home the fact that trademarks can be a lot of different things. They don't have to be just words or images. They can also be things like the red wax being poured over a bottle. That's a source indicator that distinguishes Maker's Mark from Woodford Reserve or Four Roses. So just consider that when you're looking at possible elements of your branding that could act as trademarks. Another example would be the Tiffany blue. If you wake up on Christmas morning and you see a blue box with a white ribbon on it, you're gonna go crazy because your significant other got you something from Tiffany's. Like, you don't even have to see it doesn't even have to say Tiffany on it. You know that blue box came from Tiffany & Company, and you're gonna get crazy. So remember that your trademark presents that immediate impression to people, even before they experience your brand, and after they ultimately experience the brand. It's that store of the entire experience people have with your brand. And the trademark itself is a tattoo. It's a brain tattoo. And brands have that emotional connection with their trademarks, good or bad. And I like to consider trademarks sort of that anchor or the tether to the overall brand experience. And when people have a great experience with your product, which I'm sure they will, they'll think about your product and the great experience that they had every time they see that trademark. So they'll come back and purchase and purchase and purchase from you again. So that trademark really is the anchor to the overall brand experience. It's that vessel for holding the story of your brand. So I hope that really helped explain the difference between the brand and specifically the trademark, which falls under the umbrella of the brand. Now, I do want to let you know that I have a fun worksheet that you can get, and I'm going to put a link to it after. I guess I'll put it where this pops up within Facebook and probably also YouTube and wherever you're listening to this. And it's the Trademark Trailblazer Quick Start Bundle. And it's really cool because I walk people through some exercises to help them get to think about the differences between a brand name and the overall brand and really help people nail down what those are. So anyway, I hope that this information has been really helpful, and I want to thank you so much for attending Trailblazing Trademarks. And again, if you are a brand owner and you think that you have a trailblazing trademark or you want to recommend one, please feel free to leave one in the comments or just shoot me an email. I would love to consider it. You can email me at hello@theprivatelabellawyer.com. And again, thank you so much for everyone who's here. Kimmy, it was great to see you. I like seeing people's faces. It's cool when I'm talking to be able to see that. So anyway, thank you all so much for attending, and I'll see you at my next Trailblazing Trademarks. Bye.